Welcome back. This is Hope at Dawn right here at Hope TV, where you look and you live. My name is George Gishuru, and it is time for the newspaper review. We begin with the Daily Nation, and they go with the headline, Eyes on Judges. Ousted Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's lawyers take on the bench. Court drama. Impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua yesterday stalled a petition seeking to lift an order blocking the swearing-in of his successor as he questioned the role of Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu in naming a three-judge bench hearing the case. While he argued this was the exclusive mandate of Chief Justice Martha Koome, the respondents countered the CJ had delegated. What will the court decide? That is the story that you can read on pages 4 and 5, and we of course have a picture there of High Court judges Freda Mugambi, Eric Ogola, and Anthony Mrima during the hearing of a case on the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua as Deputy President at the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi yesterday. And inset there is the impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua chatting with his lawyer, Senior Counsel Paul Muite, at the Milimani Law Courts yesterday. And the Deputy Chief Justice can appoint a tribunal to remove the president. If she can appoint a tribunal to remove the president, she can also assign judges to determine matters of great public interest. What can't she deputize? Professor Githu Muigai there, a quote attributed to the former former Attorney General. It's a story extensively covered on pages 4 and 5. I also see Ruto's big big win as court upholds his pet housing plan. President William Ruto received a major boost yesterday after the High Court gave the affordable housing program a clean bill of health. A three-judge bench dismissed 6 petitions challenging the Affordable Housing Act, saying the law met the required threshold of public participation before it was enacted. That is a story that is covered on page number 8. Still on the top right there, I see detectives probing jobs scam. Suspects moved to Boni Forest, far-flung stations. It's a story on page 11, and they're saying some 12 officers who are investigating recruitment firms accused of conning thousands of desperate job seekers transferred in questionable circumstances. You can read that story on page number 11. I also see a crime story here, how Kirinyaga MCA's daughter was killed. The daughter of a ward representative from Kirinyaga County who was found murdered in Biafra Estate in Thika in Kiambu County on October 14th. Was strangled to death, an autopsy has revealed. It's on page 3. And the detectives are pursuing credible leads, police boss says, and they have identified a prime suspect. Pathologists took blood, urine, and intestinal samples, vaginal and renal swabs for tests. Seth Nyakeo's mother, Lucy Njeri, it pains to imagine the pain, the terror, and the suffering she went through as she breathed her last. Sad story there. You can read that story on page number 3. And I also see police probe identities of 2 men in disappearance of Wells Fargo official. I read that on page 3. And on page 2, Haiti mission, Bahamian soldiers join Kenyan and Jamaican forces. The Bahamas is the 3rd country to send its officers to the strife-torn country after Kenya and Jamaica. Haiti has borne the brunt of years of violence as gangs battle for influence and territory. It's a story you can read on page number 2. I also see other stories making headlines inside the Daily Nation. Looking at the DN2 motoring, how do you keep those tires cool? That is the question. Increasing the tire pressure gives it a greater volume of air to absorb and dissipate the heat and reduces the degree of flex at every rotation. It's on page 2. And on DN2 parenting, Irene Njeri's story. I mourned the loss of my breasts. A seemingly harmless lamb that showed up a few weeks into her pregnancy turned out to be a cancerous tumor that saw Irene Njeri lose both of her breasts. You can read that on DN2 Parenting inside the Daily Nation. Then we go to the county news. Grief and anger as child drowns in Kisima Farm. The death of yet another child inside an irrigation canal at the expansive Kisima Farm, which is linked to President William Ruto, has once again sparked outrage among residents of Mata Village. You can read that story. Millions at stake as governor settles impeachment lawsuit. Officials have demanded that the impeachment resolutions be revoked. The county stands to lose a lot of money in legal fees and payment of terminal benefits. Governor Hilary Barchok appears before members of the Senate Committee on National Cohesion, Equal Opportunity and Regional Integration at Bunge Towers in Nairobi. Read that story. We go to the international news. BRICS summit on as war in Ukraine rages. Kremlin says Europe faces difficulties mobilizing military aid for Kiev. Leaders of China and India have arrived for the forum in Kazan. I also see Hezbollah launches rockets into Israel as Blinken returns. So you can read that story as Hezbollah fired rockets at two bases near the Israeli city of Tel Aviv and one west of Haifa on Tuesday morning, hours before U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken landed in Israel to make a new push for a ceasefire. You read that on page 18. The business section of the Daily Nation. IMF cuts Kenya's 2025 GDP growth outlook to 5%. IMF has lowered its gross domestic product growth forecast for Kenya for 2025 to 5% in light of the possible financial challenges occasioned by the anti-tax riots that led to the rejection of the finance bill of 2024. And the telco sector group calls for special power tariffs. Industry organization urges preferential charges. That is on page 20. And 5%, this is the IMF projection of Kenya's GDP growth next year. Let's go to the back page of The Nation. And they say university dons issue 7-day strike notice. WASU is not happy with the global figure introduced by state, and so this would further disrupt learning in the institutions following another go-slow last month. And parents, children urged to bond as academic year ends. Schools have started closing, marking the beginning of a 10-week holiday that will stretch to early January. The holiday will be longer than the 9-week third term that is ending, and the official closing day is Friday, but many schools have released students already. The term began on August 26th, and so parents and children are now being urged to bond as academic year ends. So wazazi wanauliza, tunafanya nini na watoto for 2 months? Bond with your children. I was also asking myself the same question. 2 months. What will I do with them? But yeah, we will need to bond with them some more. Let's go to the sports pages. Junior Starlets aim to end cup campaign with a bang. So Kenya's Junior Starlets have promised to end their maiden appearance at the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup with a bang when they take on Mexico in their final Group C match today at the 50-year-old Felix Sanchez Olympic Stadium in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. The match will kick off at 2 a.m. Kenyan time. I also see Kenyan football boss to get 6.45 million shillings annual pay from CAF. So the Confederation of African Football Congress yesterday has approved a proposal to give each association presidents an annual salary of 6.45 million. The money will come from the $400,000 budget on annual contributions. I also see success of Kenya under-20 team started with a youth program 7 years ago. Wanzala, Wangaya, Odhiambo, Getamu all show qualities of future Harambee Stars players. 6 of the promising players in the exciting Rising Star squad were part of Kenya's first ever under-13 national team that was formed in 2017. I also see leaders KCB face severe Gor test today. 9 matches on the cards today. Tusker face Ulinzi as a Seal welcome Leopards. So Bankers are unbeaten, while Kogalo have scored 7 goals in their 2 matches thus far. You can read that on page 29. And I see some sad news here. Rugby Sevens scrapped from 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Kuna nini pale? You can read on page 28. Let's quickly go to the Standard. And they go with the headline, high cost of getting rid of DP Gachagua. A bar of the country's finest lawyers has been tapped to litigate the case that should see the impeached deputy president either retire from public life or retain his seat. These, coupled with the effort, time and resources used to mobilize MPs, makes the process an expensive affair, and it is just but the beginning. You can read that story on page 4 and 5. I also see pain of housing tax here to stay. It is a major loss for Kenyan workers who will now pay for houses they may never live in after the controversial levy was okayed by the High Court yesterday. I also see house of convenience of MPs and priorities. Members of the National Assembly are being criticized for having taken a break after impeaching the DP. But on matters wananchi, those can wait. It's on page 6. Remember, they already have taken a recess after impeaching the president, and they are taking a recess even in the midst of very interesting, matters touching on wananchi from SHA, that transition, but wao wamesema kwanza wapumzike. Pundits are claiming lawmakers are taking too many breaks. There are also claims of parliament being captured by the executive. Now you see them, then you don't. This has become the fleeting nature of lawmakers who are seen and heard only when fomenting a national crisis before vanishing to numerous recesses. And also how MPs have become prisoners of fear after DP impeachment. You can read that as well. And Ruto moneymen face acid test in Washington, D.C. It's on page 8, if we can go there and get to see what's happening there. Stand test as Ruto moneymen face key lenders amid slowing economy. Mbadi and CBK Governor Thuge are representing the country at annual IMF World Bank forums in the U.S. IMF has reiterated calls for sound macroeconomic fundamentals after finance bill was rejected. You can read that on page 8. And court adjourns case on Adani's JKIA deal again. The High Court was on Monday compelled to adjourn the hearing of a case challenging the controversial lease of JKIA to the Adani Group. Justice Bahati Mwamuye postponed the hearing after Attorney General Dorcas Odur, Cabinet Secretaries John Badi and David Chirchir, the Senate, National Assembly and the Adani Group informed the court they had not yet been served with the amended petition filed last Monday. Read that as well inside the Standard. As we peruse to some other stories, enterprise pullout, border business on the wane as lenders shy away. Rising, it's on page 4 and 5. I also see rising operational costs and taxes hurt MSMEs growth. Solar cooking invention that helps schools cut costs. That you can read all that on the enterprise pullout inside the Standard. Then I see Azimio ordered to elect new IEBC nominee. Court rules that coalition elected a person from a non-parliamentary party. Court says Augustus Chalo was not validly elected to the selection panel, and so they need to get another a nominee to the IEBC selection panel. Justice Janet Mulwa directed Azimio to conduct the elections within 48 hours in compliance with the provisions of the IEBC. And they said any event not later than 3 p.m. on October 24th. It's on page 17. From the counties, over 60 acres of land missing in Kibowen's succession court told administrators of late Kibowen Komen Estate tussle in court. Some beneficiaries and lawyers said to be frustrating the process. I also see videos reveal Shakahola doomsday cult horror. You can read that. City Hall demands safety audit to prevent future building collapses. It's on page 19. You can read that. Let's go to the business section. Kenya's Gen Z protests now spark global rethink on IMF conditions. Insiders say they highlighted how inadequate communication and a lack of understanding about reforms can lead to widespread resistance. These emerged at the ongoing annual meetings of the IMF and the World Bank. So we are being used as a case study at the global stage as well. You can read that on page number 20. The world news, Blinken back to Middle East for 11th time to push for Gaza truce. Ex-President Toledo gets 20 years for corruption. This is a Peruvian court on Monday sentencing former President Alejandro Toledo to more than 20 years in prison for accepting multi-million-dollar bribes from scandal-hit Brazilian construction conglomerate Odebrecht. You can read that on page 22 as well. Let's go to the back page. Barcelona victory against Bayern. Five-time winners. Barcelona lifted the trophy most recently in 2015. Flick scored a positive results against the German giants. That is one of the that is the highlight of today's UEFA Champions League matches. Barcelona hosting Bayern Munich. We also have Man City versus Sparta Prague. Red Bull Leipzig will be at home to Liverpool. Young Boys will be welcoming Inter Milan. I see Celtic will be away in Italy taking on Atalanta. I also see Man United's Ten Hag relishing Europa clash with Jose Mourinho. Junior Starlets captain Ochaka now plots Mexico downfall. Athletes set sights on Stanchart Nairobi Marathon. At least 23,000 participants registered for the Sunday event. Alphonse Keegan and Evelyn Churchill stormed to victories last year. That is on the page 28. Page 29, Glasgow confirmed as host city for 2026 Commonwealth Games. Australian state of Victoria withdrew from hosting the Games last year. The Games will feature just 10 sports compared with the 19 on show at the 2022 edition. You read that on page 29. Let's check the Business Daily. Land prices rise fastest as cost of apartments drops. An acre in upmarket Nairobi estates cost 210.7 million shillings on average, rare fall in high-end apartment prices. Also see KRA targets small traders with WhatsApp tax invoicing. All right. And new car purchases dip for third year. Kenyans have cut the purchase of new vehicles for the third year running because of the deterrent cost of borrowing and the lagged effect of higher taxation amidst thinning payslips. IMF slashes Kenya's 2025 growth prospects to 5%. Data now joint highest revenue stream for telecoms operators. That is what's being reported in today's dailies. Let's continue praying for our nation. Let's continue hoping for the best for our nation. Let's now take a break to pave way for the video of the day.